Hi, everybody. It's Zach here. Welcome to AOS Up and Coming. Good to see you back after the weekend. We are here today to talk about Seraphon. We're in the final stretch of army previews. Do wanted to give a quick reminder for our schedule. Now, this schedule has mostly everything correct, but a few things coming up the pipeline just so you all know. Thing number one, tonight we do have a members-only game. If you are a Mandrill, please go into our Discord and vote what army I should play against Megan's Soulblight. Tonight is, I'm going to close that poll. I'm going to close that poll after this stream. Tonight is our final 3rd edition game. After tonight, the next couple weeks, as we wait for 4th to drop, we will be having a lot of content like this, where idiots from the internet tell you things and wildly conjecture. So, and listen, we know you guys like that. So you'll be seeing that on Saturdays when our normal games occur. And honestly, my guess about what we'll be doing on Mondays instead is probably Hobby hanging in our Discord. So for a couple weeks until 4th Ed gets kicked off at the weekend of the 13th of July. That week, we will be having a crazy kickoff week, and we'll show you that schedule pretty soon. We'll start premiering that schedule. Reminder, we have hobby streams Wednesdays at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. We're actually working on kind of a big Sigmar terrain board project right now, Saray and I. We're hoping to have that kicked off at the same time as 4th, or in and around there. And last but not least, do give us a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, if you're just dipping in because you're a Seraphon fan, and you're like, oh, I'll watch any two idiots covering Seraphon. We are those idiots, and we do a lot of different Sigmar content and a lot of hobby content as well. That's really our focus, but we do stream Sigmar games, and we will be streaming a ton of 4th Ed. Okay, speaking of two idiots, the other one with me today is Brett. Brett, welcome here to with us. You are our Seraphon player on the channel.
Yeah, I heard there was wild conjecture to be made, so
Yes.
I showed up for some wild conjecture.
Yes.
That's what I'm here
Okay,
for.
Brett, what we like to do is kind of get a gut check from people right away, right out of the gate, thoughts on things, without going into too much detail. Then we're going to kind of go through the rules and talk about things a little bit one by one. You have read through this. You haven't done it Steven style, where we get your live on-air reactions. Tell me, what is your gut check on this, like right out of the gate?
So it feels fine. There's a lot of familiar things here. A lot of signature abilities that the army had, that different units had, are still there. Some things have moved around. So an ability that was previously part of a detachment maybe now is a spell or a datasheet ability for a unit. There's this new battle trait concept. So some sub-faction abilities are now part of battle traits, it feels like.
Right.
So it kind of feels like it's all there. It's just kind of in a different spot. And because of the way they've structured the abilities, you can actually maybe there's even a little bit more flexibility, not necessarily more abilities, but just flexibility in which abilities you choose.
Yeah.
So, for example, the ability to summon, I mean, maybe we're getting ahead a little bit here, but the ability to summon units is now on the Slann warscroll
Yeah.
rather than part of a sub-faction ability. And so you could, in theory, sort of choose traditionally coalesced battle traits,
Yeah.
or a traditionally sort of more coalesced battle formation.
Coalesce style, yeah.
Coalesce style,
Yeah.
but then bring a Slann and have the ability to summon things, which is like a level of flexibility you didn't have with your sort of mixing and matching and choosing of abilities in 3rd Ed. So yeah, that's my initial take, is like, oh, it's all kind of here. They've just moved things around a little bit and maybe even added a little bit more of an a la carte pick and choose which abilities you want to pick from.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? You always included a Slann in your coalesce list. He was still quite
Yeah.
good, but he always kind of felt a little more like a Starborn guy. So seeing Starborn abilities show up on his War Scroll is kind of like not too big of a surprise.
Yeah.
Okay. As always, we chat the lore. I did not find any new lore in here. I did not find any nuggets that made me think, oh, wow, this is very interesting. I didn't know that about them. At least I don't...
Can I just interject here on the
of
lore
course.
comment?
Yes.
You and I are both Tau players. Reading this lore, I was like, you could just replace Seraphon with Tau Empire and replace Slann Starmasters with Ethereals, and this like reads like very much like a 40k Tau lore article.
Yeah.
I mean, like the concept of old ones don't exist in Tau lore, but you know, with a few exceptions.
You're totally right. The goals are slightly different. Like Slann have this Slann and Seraphon have this goal of like making sure chaos doesn't get their way. Whereas Tau are just trying to, I guess in some ways also do that, but not specifically targeted at chaos, right?
But like the concept of a grand plan, you know, just replace that with greater good.
Yeah.
They talk about a caste system.
I mean, right? I know.
Wow. All right.
And the caste system, right? Exactly. It's similar too in that it's like it's not really a caste system. There's one person at top, and then everyone else kind of has a niche role, right? And then, I mean, to go even further, as I was reading their new battle traits, which let's go ahead and get into here, the Asterism abilities felt like Kayan Monka. It's like it's a little different, but you have this is the only army that's really like this. Tides from Deepkin. Now let's chat about how this works exactly. So this is cool. At the start of the battle, in the deployment phase, so it's not part of your War Scroll ability.
Right.
You look at your opponent, you look at what they've got, and you pick one of these 4 abilities that I think are fairly evidently supposed to mimic the 4 sub-factions that have historically existed. This isn't too much of a surprise. You're asking for guidance from a particular old one? Is that kind of who these names are?
Yeah, they're old ones, yeah.
Okay, so you've got Izzul the Tamer. This is going to give your monsters and companions, so including Raptidons, Agrodons, all the monsters, critical exploding 6s, right?
Right.
This is, I guess, maybe Thunder Lizards. I don't know. You've got.
We have to be careful because there are still what's the other one? There are still detachments that sort of roughly align with.
That's also true.
The old sub-factions too. So these are a little bit.
That's true too.
Maybe a little bit more nuanced than just like the 4 sub-factions.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one feels to me. Yeah, like I mean, you would definitely choose that if you were going Thunder Lizards for sure.
Yeah, if you had a lot of cavalry, if you were heavy Agrodons, because we haven't seen the Agrodon sheet, but currently the Agrodon itself hits kind of hard. Yes.
Right. Yeah. You bring the guys on top are almost an afterthought. The mounts are where the real damage comes from.
Yeah. The giant mini Tyrannosaurus Rex pack shot is pretty scary. Okay.
Turns out Velociraptors are good at fighting. Yeah.
Quetzal, I'm assuming is how you pronounce this because it's kind of similar to Quetzalcoatl, the Preserver, -1 rend for attacks that target friendly Seraphon units that are wholly within friendly territory. Now, this is kind of interesting because we're going to see an unlimited spell from one of the lores that also reduces rend.
Right. Is there a limit on how much rend can be reduced? Is it similar to like +1 to hit, +1 to wound, kind of stacking, only capping at -1?
The game has addressed save stacking and how it still is possible, but they have limited the sources of it. So my guess is rend stacking and rend reduction stacking is still going to be a thing. But again, yeah.
Well, and I double checked. All out defense is plus to your save, which is different from minus to rend. So and this you can combo. You can definitely combo, regardless of how they address save stacking. You can definitely combo plus to save with minus to rend.
Yeah.
So that this is an awesome ability, and potentially, we're going to see here in a sec, -1 incoming damage. As a Coalesce player, that's sort of the signature ability for Coalesce Seraphon in third, is gone. There's no -1 incoming damage shown in this preview.
Yeah.
This feels to me like sort of the replacement for that. It is only for units that are wholly within your territory, which is a little bit awkward. If this was board wide, I would be super excited about it.
Yeah.
Since it's only wholly within your territory, I'm a little less excited about it.
Sure.
Obviously, it depends a lot on the battle plan.
Yeah.
But because you get to choose this ability after you know the battle plan, if you're playing a battle plan that has a territory all the way up to the halfway point of the board, then
Pretty good.
this might be a lot more compelling. And the nice thing about it is you can then use the spell that you referenced earlier. If you have a unit that like crosses into your opponent's territory to go Alpha Strike or do an attack or something, you're sending a unit of Saurus Warriors out to go fight, and they leave your territory, you can just cast that spell on them.
Yeah.
So there's ways to kind of mitigate the downside to this one.
I think so. As Liam points out, it is melee only. It is not against missile weapons, but
right.
We even Pteranodon, even cities, not a ton out there of high range shooting yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and the fact, like, a lot of that kind of nuance concerns me less because you can choose this at the time at the start of the game. So against Pteranodon, you might just not choose this one. Pick a different one. Fine. Yeah.
You might pick the next one to help run their asses down. Yeah. Sotek the Deliverer. Add 2 to the movement characteristics of friendly Seraphon units. This one is kind of hard to beat.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Full stop. There's no qualifications.
That's it.
There's no limitations on which units can benefit from it. There's no limitations on like when they can benefit from it.
Yeah.
It's just, here's a flat upgrade for your whole army. And to be fair, like, there's a point in the game very often where movement sort of becomes less relevant once everyone's stuck in where they want to be, and you've maybe already scored your movement-based battle tactics. But like, I don't know, 4 turns out of 5, this is going to be useful somewhere on the board, which is so cool.
Yeah, this is great. We're going to talk about the Great Plan ability in a second. And the only drawback to this one is I think it might be one of the hardest ones to get the bonus perk to.
Right.
Again, it'll be a matchup dependent, which as we keep mentioning, against my Beast Claw Raiders, my general's going to have been in combat, or he'll have been destroyed. But one of those two things. But against Nighthaunt, he's probably hiding in the back, and you're not going to see him. So it's matchup dependent. Okay, then we've got Tapak the Seer. This one also feels pretty strong. Just +1 to casting for friendly Seraphon units.
Especially if you're leading into wizards, it's great. Even if you're not leading into wizards, it's also, your magic is going to be a part of your game plan almost certainly. So this feels great. This is, I referenced earlier the Astrolith Bear. We haven't seen the Astrolith Bear is not in this preview, and this feels to me like they might be changing how the Astrolith Bear works. And normally, in third ed, he gives +1 to cast. This feels to me like it could be replacing that ability. So if the Astrolith Bear, wild conjecture time.
Yes.
If the Astrolith Bear is being completely reworked, because they have struggled a little bit during third to kind of make sure he's balanced.
Yes.
His +1 to cast aura could be being replaced by this ability. I could see that happening.
Yeah. In the words of Brett, quite honestly, in this case, who knows what the Astrolith Bear is?
Who knows?
Honestly, I feel like he could be doing anything. Currently, the other thing worth pointing out is he gives out a 6-up ward currently. And the Slann, when we get there, now just has a ward on his data sheet. So on his war scroll. So I kind of think of the Astrolith Bearer narratively anyway. I sort of think of him as he's there, and the perks he gives out, I always sort of associate with you take him as a buddy to the Slann.
Right.
So I'm, now the Slann just has a 6-up ward. I'm kind of curious if that's going to stay around too.
Sure. I was thinking. So the ask with bear. Let's
That's
talk
wildly
Astro for a
conjecture,
little bit.
Astro. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Hold on.
well, yeah.
But rather than address the actual preview, we want to take a few minutes to talk about what are the war scrolls not here. Let's.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So I could see his +1 to cast going, becoming this ability. So he no longer has +1 to cast. But his current abilities sort of fall in two categories. He has a buff to magic, which is
Yeah.
+1 to cast and +6 inch range,
Yeah.
and he's a buff to durability, which is 6 up ward for Saurus and Croxagore units.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, sorry. He doesn't give a 6 up ward to Slann. No, he gives a 6 up ward to everybody, right?
oh, sorry. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
You're right. Yep. Um, that might not be true. Regardless,
Tad is in chat. Tad
think,
will know.
No,
Tad
you're
will know.
right.
I think it's
I
anybody.
think
Yeah.
you're right. I think you're right. So I could see this, becoming his buff to magic, moving to this ability here that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And his buff to durability, we mentioned before that the -1 incoming damage is no longer sort of in any of these shown anywhere here.
Yeah.
I could see his 6 up ward aura becoming a -1 incoming damage aura.
Yeah.
Like I could see that happening.
I could too. -1 damage is a little bit controversial. But like for example,
Sure.
Daughters of Cain have the fist that gives -1 damage. And when you when you have that ability in a 12-inch bubble, I do feel like it's a little less powerful.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, my guess is we won't see any -1 damage in this edition. I think that it is largely considered kind of like a feel bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, it could also be like -1 to wound.
Right. Yeah. I think I agree. -1 damage, especially army wide, as a Coalesce Seraphon player, is kind of awkward because either it's just game-breakingly good against, for example, Slaves to Darkness, anything with a whole army that is 2 damage.
Yeah.
Just really struggles into army-wide -1 damage.
Right.
And then
here's a million Witch Elf attacks. Cool.
Right. Against Witch Elves, it does absolutely nothing. You're like, cool, my army ability is useless. So I like the idea of it going away as an army rule, and I also like the idea of it coming back as an aura buff from a character.
Yeah.
So you can, if let's say your opponent has mostly 1 damage, but they have a few units with 2 damage, you just move your character to where he can be most useful in, when where your guys are being attacked by 2 damage attacks. And it's not army wide. You don't feel like your army rules being, wasted going into a 1 damage enemy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can still have that aura of like extra durability. So that's my wild conjecture that the Astros player will have an aura of -1 damage as his sort of like durability buff. And then maybe his magic buff is just the range thing, which I could see also.
Yeah, I totally don't think that is out of line. And it'd be cool, like against Daughters of Cain, he'd basically run towards Marathi. He'd be like, all right, whatever's going on over here, this is where I need to be. So we get these. The second part of this rule is really cool. I love this. Basically, if at the start of turn 3.
Turn 3, yeah.
Yeah. Where is this?
You check at the start of the turn, beginning on.
Start of the 3rd battle round. Yeah. Okay. If you've achieved basically sort of one of the matching goal for your first Asterism, you get a second. For Itzel the Tamer, this is the criticals, exploding 6s on companions. You have to destroy 3 or more enemy units by then. I think that's actually pretty tough, and I think your opponent. I think only a really. I don't think a super high level opponent would play to avoid that. But if they had a little bit of opportunity to do it, they might. Oh, I fall back here and I can live and deny him his his second Asterism. Sure, why not? So I think this is actually one of the hardest ones to achieve. This one feels very dependent on your opponent. 3.
especially by the start of turn 3,
Yeah.
right? Like killing 3 enemy units on turn 2 depends who your opponent is and how cagey their army wants to play.
Yeah.
How many small units they have.
Yeah.
Um,
But
you'll definitely accomplish this at some point in the game, but like by turn 3, maybe it's hard.
some fact, but again, because you get to pick it, it's so cool. Because like Soulblight Gravelords, I mean, they love to just throw 10 skeletons in your way. Crew Boys, you're gonna possibly be able to pick up 2 units of Hobgotslitas at least, and then you're on the hook for your third one. But a lot of armies just have screens that are there to die.
Yep.
So yeah, Kietzel the Preserver. There are no enemy units wholly within friendly territory. This one is sort of interesting, Brett, because on one hand, you do the Kietzel the Preserver if your territory is really big, but then on the other hand, this kind of undoes that, right? So,
I'm actually looking at this as a way of playing mind games. Like you pick the Quetzal one, and then you basically force your opponent to get into you by turn 3. Like you basically tell your opponent, hey, if you want to play cagey and like stand back and not engage and like run away from me all game, like you can do that, but you're basically going to give me a free second buff.
Right.
So I would pick this one if I knew that my opponent either the human playing the army like had a reputation for playing cagey, or if the army or if the army that the person was playing just kind of wanted to be played cagey generally.
That does both describe me.
Yeah, I will always be picking this against Zach. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I don't really want to have to feel like I have to go in until I'm ready. So it is interesting. Yeah. Sotek the Deliverer, again, I think this one's a little tough to achieve, but you'll know when you can do it. Like I'm probably not gonna put a Frost Lord in the combat with you if I see the opportunity to do it. So, but by contrast, my daughter's, she doesn't often go in until round 3 if I'm using the cart as my general, or 4. And same thing with Nighthaunt, my general never goes into combat ideally. So, against somebody who has like a big monster, Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, you're probably going to pick this. Or you're just like, okay, cool, I don't have to worry about him for 2 turns, I guess, because you're being a baby and you don't want me to get a bonus ability. You can also threaten your opponent that way. You're like, okay, cool, you want to be a baby? You don't want to give me a second ability? Fine. He can stay back there.
I think there's another, especially to this one, I think there's another layer of like the weird mind games and counterplay, which is who goes first. Like if you're going second on turn 2, you could just take a unit of, we're going to have the Pteranodon warscroll here in a second. But if you have a unit of Pteranodons in your army, and they're move 14, and now they're move 16 because you chose Sotek the Deliverer, like, it will be very easy to move and charge that unit into your opponent's backfield general. And maybe you do that literally just so that you can... Okay, so you went second. You just need to survive 1 round of combat, pay a CP to auto-pass morale, and then...
There's no morale. There's no morale. You don't even have
There's no morale. Okay, perfect. So then you just need to not have 1 model left.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the turn, now it's turn 3, you get to do this. You get to like proc your second ability. And then it doesn't matter what happens after that. You don't have to keep that unit in combat.
Right.
They can die, they can do whatever. You've now gotten the second ability. So I think there's like a little bit of weird, if you go second and if you have a fast unit, you can like throw somebody into combat with a backfield general just to kick this off, right?
Yeah.
Just supercharge your army with a second ability.
I like Liam. Brett's just trying to sell Pteranodons to more people.
Pteranodons, 20 boxes on the way. I got it. I got them coming.
60 Pteranodons. Okay, Tepak.
Brought out all the Pteranodons.
This one, all right, I have to say, right out of the gate, my thinking is based on what Tepak the Seer does and what you have to achieve for Tepak the Seer to succeed, to get a second Asterism, my guess is that 9 out of 10 times, I think you'll probably, without people wanting to think about it too much, This might be what you see, because the plus to cast in early a game is going to be good. Get your buffs up, and all you have to do to succeed in this one is any friendly Slann units on the battlefield, and no Slann units are in combat or have been destroyed. Now again, it is just in combat, so your opponent could kind of do the same thing. They could find something cheap and fast and maybe that has fly and just send it into your Slann, knowing it can't kill them, but it can put them in combat. But I think you can screen it for the most part. It's kind of as easy as putting a ring of skinks around them.
Sure. And to the conversation we were having previously about who goes first, if you know that you're going first in turn 2, this is very easy to achieve. Like your opponent might try to charge you at the top of 2 during their turn to deny you the second Asterism. But then because if you're going second, you can then fall back. You can then fall back during your turn in the bottom of 2, and now going into 3, you're not in combat anymore, and your ability, you'll get your second Asterism.
Yeah.
So I think both of these two, so technical to deliver and Tepok this year, have like interesting twists depending on who goes first in round 2.
Brett, I'm going to throw a whole nother twist into this whole thing for you that you might be forgetting about. For 2 CP now, there's a countercharge ability where you charge in your opponent's turn. So in both instances,
I forgot about that.
In both instances, these two could be thrown completely around. But you would see it kind of you're going to get good at seeing where your opponent can countercharge. And 2 CP at the bottom of the turn, 2 CP the bottom of the charge turn is going to be a tall order for a lot of armies. I think we're going to see very few countercharges. Okay.
It's a powerful ability, but expensive for sure.
Okay, super interesting. I love this battle trait. I love it for Seraphon players because you can already see Brett's little evil mind cogs turning in there about how he wants to mind game his opponent with which one he picks. And it's true, matchup, and frankly, honestly, like you said, battle plan is going to have a big effect on it.
There's so many variables. Yeah.
Okay. We then get to battle formations, and we're shown the Sunclaw Star Host. I like this one. Once per turn, 3 units can make a pylon move, and on a 2+, here we go with the D3 2+. We still don't know what this means.
Yeah.
I talked about
no idea. Possible to know. Can't figure it out.
Steven, who's in chat, had a housewarming party, and we talked about this for an hour there. I talked about it yesterday. I've talked about this so much in my life right now. It's starting to screw with my head, honestly. Okay, 3 units of Saurus or Kroxigor at the end of the fight phase, at the end of the turn, make a pylon move, and on a 2+ D3 mortals, or mortal damage. I think this is pretty good. Like
this feels to me like the new bite attacks.
The new bite attacks. I think you might be right.
So I think bite attacks are gone, and this is if you want to lean into biting things. If you're a biter, you pick Vengeance of Izir.
The pylon move is like underrated. Like we all kind of know that extra movement and out of phase movement is strong. This is just like you're having that close, gritty fight for an objective control. And then, on stream, we like to remind each other, you say, oh, just remember, I'm piling in 3 more inches. And like, oh, cool. Well, I can't keep this objective. You're taking it.
Yeah.
Especially with Saurus warriors. And Kroxigors count as 2 in objectives now. We don't know we did see their control score. I think it is at least 2. So, yeah, I don't know. Feels pretty good.
Feels good. Yeah.
The other
they've hinted at the other ones. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they've hinted at the other ones, which I kind of think, I'm guessing, might be hard to beat, though. We might have been shown the least good one.
I think that's true.
One just says capitalize on War Beast. That could be anything. But it does sound like, thunder
Thunder Lizards.
thunder lizards. Tap into celestial energies to teleport key units around the battlefield. That sounds like the Starborn ability currently, but yeah, just being able to teleport units around super strong.
Yeah.
Or a skink based one. Right now we do have this is the one you don't take the skink one. The skink one is what 3 units can redeploy when you go to redeploy, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So currently, the one they previewed here, Vengeance of Azir, it's the Saurus and Croxor one. So
Yeah.
this is like coalesced.
Kyoto's
Sorry,
Claw.
Kyoto's Claw. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then War Beast. This one that capitalizes on War Beast feels like an equivalent to Thunder Lizards. And then teleporting units is currently a spell in Coalesced for Slann. But Starborn also have a version of that. So there's sort of 2 ways, but it's current in third ed. It's split across different magic lores.
Yeah.
So they've brought that together under one battle formation, and then the skink one could be anything. It could be attack. If it says exploit the natural swiftness of skinks, that could be an attack buff for skinks.
You can run and charge.
Like a run and charge, fall back and charge. It could be a lot of a deep strike ability. There's a lot of things that could be, but it's clearly focused on skinks, which is cool. I like it.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. I was just gonna say that the nice thing about skinks is there are a few war scrolls, like presumably Raptidons have the skink keyword. There are a few war scrolls that have it, but if an ability only affected traditional little skinks, you could really go hog on that. You could give them all the things, and it wouldn't be too powerful. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could say run and charge, fall back and charge, redeploy, re-roll. You could go crazy, and no one would be like, all right, that's too powerful, because it's just the skink war scroll, right? Like,
there was a time when skinks were oppressive. We're long past that, but there was a time when the meta Seraphon was like 120 skinks with blowpipes.
Oh yeah, right. Yes, I've played against. It was actually the book before the current one.
Yeah,
you could do this. Yeah,
but I just want to point out one of the cool things I like about kind of the way this preview is showing us, or what this preview is showing us, is that you could, for example, choose the skink battle formation and sort of lean into skinks, but then with your Asterism, you could choose the Quetzal the Preserver, -1 rend for in melee for Seraphon units wholly within your territory. So you could sort of pick and choose elements that had previously been maybe more of a coalesced ability and apply it to a battle formation that is traditionally more of a Starborn.
Yeah.
A little more Starborn-y. And then we haven't seen the spell lores yet, but you could then cast maybe more of a coalesced spell onto your skink unit. So it's cool that they are sort of like we said at the start. They're sort of taking these abilities. They're all here. They just kind of have moved around a little bit, and you have this a la carte ability to pick and choose, your different buffs for your army, and against a particular opponent, I guess. In the case of the
and the battle plan and everything. Yeah, I love, as we move on to spells here, I love that the first thing they mention is, just so you know, Lord Starmasters are better than Lords of Change at Magic. They just go ahead and mention that real quick, just to really screw. Like, we know that this faction is about screwing chaos over at any chance they get, and GW wants to just pick. Just quick heads up, Slann better than Magic at Lords of Change. Just so you guys know. Okay. All right, Mystical Unforging. This is an unlimited spell with a 12-inch range. You cast it on an enemy unit, and that enemy unit's rend is reduced by 1. It's unlimited. We're going to see here in a second that the Slann can still cast spells out of a skink. So I think Meg accidentally built an Troglodyte instead of a Carnosaur. It was a good move because he's going to have that word. This as an unlimited.
Will he know?
That's true. He might not. As a as a mid-game spell, when everybody's stuck in, all of your wizards getting to point to some of your, the Varengard, the Stonehorn, right, the Witch Elves, and saying, okay, -1 rend all over. Wow, kind of good.
Yeah, and this is, we said before the Asterism was melee only. This is not. This is all weapons
Yep.
carried by that target unit are -1.
Khorne is. I'm sure we're gonna get the Khorne preview this week. I'm sure they're gonna have some little anti-magic stuff, maybe even on their war scroll, the 5-up ignore or something. But Khorne are gonna hate this because they're not really gonna have a lot to say about denying it, probably. But even worse than Khorne are just like armies that don't take a lot of wizards, right? Like just watch that are melee bully armies, just watching their rend drop all over the board. Yeah, very very interesting. They do so. This is the lore of celestial manipulation, presumably the Starborn lore. And they go ahead and tell us kind of the other spells. They say Shower of Comets. We already know there's Comet's Call, Empower Celestite Weapons.
Empowered Celestite, yeah.
Right.
So the way I read this, this first lore that we have, the lore of celestial manipulation, feels to me like utility and movement, and protection. Right,
Yeah.
you're debuffing your enemy's weapons. And then lore of primal jungles feels to me like offensive output. So there's direct damage, earthquakes, etc. Healing your own units, and then buffing your own units with so offensive output. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've kind of separated the lores in that way.
But they did give a heal to the they've given a little bit of both. But yeah, I agree. And it's kind of
right.
We know we get one lore. We haven't really seen yet. Is there a way to get 2 lores? Unless somebody in chat knows, and there may be, but we haven't seen that yet. Okay, we then get some war scrolls, including a Slann. I'm a little surprised we didn't get Lord Croak. They've mostly been showing a named character, but that's okay. The Slann looks like you're not gonna regret having a Slann in your collection right now.
He looks great.
He looks similar, right? But maybe better. I don't know. Hard to know.
Yeah, he lost a few things. He lost the CP gain, so he no longer adds command points to your army. But as I understand it, they've mentioned that just as a concept is kind of out. There's a very very few, if any, abilities to gain additional command points.
Listen, we lost. Yeah, we lost. Everyone is fearless now, so tactical insight is harder to come by when everyone is a psychotic zealot, brutally slashing and clawing at each other until death.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has +1 to cast on his war scroll. That is the same as third. He has board wide unbinds, which is the same as third. Celestial Equilibrium, his data scroll or war scroll spell, that is a carryover from third. Arcane Vassal, also a carryover. The Celestial Reinforcements is new. And is the essentially the Seraph or the Starborn summoning points.
Yeah.
It's now not part of a sub-faction. It's now on the Slann's war scroll again. So they've taken an ability that existed and moved it to a different place. But that's cool. You could bring essentially what is otherwise the Coalesce Seraphon list and now summon things.
I think
with your Slann.
I think this is first of all, Tad wants to ask, and I think it's a fair question. Can we talk about the Astrolith Bearer again? And I think we're about to a little bit. You can't talk about the Slann without talking about the Astrolith Bearer.
Yeah.
But I think that this is sort of like permission to throw 20 Saurus warriors. I don't know about 6 Agrodons, but maybe 10 Raptidons. Just throw them away turn 1. Just go do try your Alpha Strike turn 1. Get your Hawanchi speed off. Do your running charge. Just go straight into something. See what you can do. Because you want to, with a 4-up ability that automatically happens, it's not a spell. You want to start rolling this ASAP. You want to be rolling this honestly if you can on turn 2. So I think I hate to say it, Pteranodons gonna be
Pteranodons, unit of 3. Pteranodons.
Oh no, well, okay. This is a big debate. I kind of want to know what people in chat think about this. This happens with Gloomspike gets a lot. People are really obsessed with like, okay, if you take 10 of something, and then they die, you get 5 back. Cool. If you take 5 of something and they die, you get 3 back. And there's these psychotic people, and I want to know if I'm about to offend anybody. I feel like this might be a polychrome thing. There's psychotic people who feel like they'd rather get 3 back out of 5 because it's better value. It's like they're gaming. It's like kind of the people who go to a buffet just to eat as much as possible.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd rather get a free 5-man unit than a 3-3-man unit, if that makes sense.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you're investing the points in your 10-man unit as compared to your 5. So it's more of an upfront cost, but as long as you're getting value from that upfront cost, it's probably better to just get more stuff back, right?
I think so, right? Yeah. Okay. All right, Polly. Sorry I called you out there. I feel like somebody has like challenged me on this. I thought it was you before. Not that I'm right. I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, I'd rather throw 6 Pteranodons into my army, into my opponent, and have 3 of them come back than 3 and have 2 of them come back.
Yeah. Now, we were talking about this before the show started, but honestly, I'm super curious how this interacts with Rally. Can I take a unit of 3 Kroxigors, throw them off across the board turn 1, have them die, turn 2, bring them back as a unit of 2, and then rally up to 3, and then charge them again?
I think the answer is no, but we will have to see. I'm pretty sure. Okay, yeah, the new unit is the new size. I think that's right. Okay, the Slann does come with a 6-up ward. That's cool. He's Wizard 3, worth pointing out.
He's a 6-up ward, but he has 1 worse pip of armor save. So he's only got a 5-up armor save instead of 4.
Turns out being naked on a chair, the chair's great, but it can't help you. Yeah. Okay. We get a Saurus Oldblood on Carnosaur. And
this is super cool to see.
I like this war scroll. I will say this right out of the gate. My observation with him, Brett, was he is an artifact or a command trait away from being really good. When you just kind of look at this right now, I'm like, it's okay. But I know that there's some artifact and or war command ability you're going to give him that's going to make him crazy good. The Sunbolt hasn't changed as far as I know. It can shoot it can shoot in combat. It could do that now.
It got a little shorter range. I think it was 18 inches before.
Okay. He is interestingly, a lot of monsters have lost a profile. He did not.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think there's a case to be made that other than hitting on 4s, which is kind of monster wide now, his profile's got his damage dropped on his bite as well.
Damage dropped on his bite. Yeah, that's the big one. But his clawed forelimbs went from 2 attacks to 4 attacks.
And so 2 damage to 3 damage?
And 2 damage to 3 damage. Yep. So
the bite also 2 to 3, right? The bite was 2 attacks before, or was it 3?
The bite was 3 attacks.
It is 3 attacks. Okay.
And it used to degrade on its, it used to degrade differently. But that's fine. Like, it feels like the companion is about the same in terms of output.
Yeah.
But what's changed is his ability. So he no longer has the CP efficiency ability to issue multiple commands in the same phase. Instead, he has the spearhead of the charge, which if he charges, other nearby units get +1 to their charge.
He also +1 damage on the charge. And Polly points out 12 3-damage attacks on the charge with at least 1 rend. Kind of a lot, actually. It's
a lot for sure. And more than half of those are hitting on 4s. So you have to you have to think about that. But
he's gonna be all-out attack candidate for sure.
He's a very good all-out attack candidate. Or like you said, there's maybe an interesting relic or command trait for him.
Yeah, I think as the peeps in chat are talking, Steven and everything, and we keep talking about the Andrasta test. What I'm looking for, especially with a 4-up save, does he not have a 3-up currently? No, he has a 4-up, right?
He has a 4-up, and he has 15 health currently, so he even lost a point of health.
Okay. And to No, he's 10-inch movement currently, right?
His movement's the same. His
Okay.
save's the same.
Control is
And
5. Checks out for a monster.
yeah, yeah,
What I'm looking for him, Brett, honestly, when I look at all the cool things he's got, his massive jaws don't degrade that much. He's got to take 10 damage to lose 1 attack. Okay. Yeah, like you said, the charge thing is awesome. Blood Frenzy is quite good. I mean, shoot an enemy monster with the Sun Gauntlet, you're going to get a wound, as long as you don't roll 1 attack. And then on a 3-up, strike first.
It's only against enemy monsters, and he historically has been not a crazy beat stick. But yeah, it feels to. I guess here's my thing with this strike, this rampage, Blood Frenzy. If it was guaranteed, I'd feel comfortable charging him into like something gnarly, and trying to finish him off. But like as it stands, it's not guaranteed. And so, are you gonna like throw your Carnosaur in on a 3-up roll to maybe strike first? But if you don't, like he's just kind of dead. Maybe like I don't know. 3-up abilities feel really dangerous to me, especially if you're hinging your general surviving or not on a 3-up roll. Like that's a big gamble.
The way I think about stuff like this, John and I were actually kind of chatting this a little bit about Ushiran a while back, because he has a potential fight last as well. But he's got to beat your leadership. And the way I was kind of thinking about something like this is somewhere else, maybe nearby, which would be great, the +1 charge. Somewhere else nearby, you've thrown Saurus warriors into something. Now the Saurus warriors are gonna live, but what you're doing is you're saying, okay, cool. If I get the 3-up, then I fight first here, then I fight with the Saurus warriors. It's a bonus, but either way, you're like, otherwise, I still fight first here. It's just that now the Saurus warriors are going to take more casualties.
Sure.
Like
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Tad also has a good point in chat. It works in their turn, so as a defensive ability or potential mind game against where they can. Hey, by the way, just so you know, just a reminder, this guy fights first on a 3-up.
on a 3-up, that is a good mind game in that regard, and he can again 2 CP countercharge.
Right.
So that's actually it's true scariness is not the 1 and 2 that you're worried about rolling. It's the 3-up that your opponent has to assume you're going to roll. Right.
Yes.
That's these
the mind game.
Yeah. What I'm looking for this guy when it comes to command trait or artifact is something that helps him defensively. He's a defensive buff away, -1 incoming damage, 5-up ward, dare I say, 6-up ward even I'll take. He's that away from maybe passing the Andrasta test, and then quite frankly becoming a real monster. And which is sort of funny, Brett. Like you've been thinking about him in 3rd more as a buff piece than as a wrecking ball, but he's kind of role has changed a little bit here.
I definitely think they're changing his role.
Yeah.
I think myself included, people look at this kit, they build the kit, they paint it up, they put it on the table, they're like, dude, this is the most badass Saurus riding a giant Tyrannosaurus. You just want to
should
get in there and eat things.
Yeah. It should wreck face.
You cannot do that in 3rd ed with this guy. He's so important to your army for so many reasons, and he's very valuable, and he doesn't have the durability to fight toe to toe with some of the bigger beatstick characters in the game.
Yeah.
And it feels to me like he no longer has any of these buffing abilities, so you're sort of there's less opportunity cost to losing him. You don't feel like if I lose him my whole army's out the window. Depending on relics and command traits, etc., he could. It sounds like his offensive output is certainly better. We've seen that from his warscroll. He's cool. I like the new role for him for sure.
He looks scary. Okay, then out of nowhere, out of
left field,
Pteranodon Riders. Brett painted Pteranodon Riders on our hobby stream yesterday with Megan. Check that out. They actually both worked on Saurus Wars. I have Meg's still sprued Slotta skinks here. They actually look amazing. I'm really excited for those. And Brett worked on Pteranodon Riders. And you kind of slap chop Pteranodon Riders, and like they don't look slap chop. They look really good.
It was a fun stream.
Yeah.
I thought I was memeing by bringing what I assumed was going to be the least likely unit that they would preview, so that we could make wild conjecture about the Pteranodons during the stream.
And they're like, "Fuck you, Brett. Here we go."
Safely make wild conjecture. And Games Workshop was trolling me. It turns out.
Yeah.
We've got Pteranodon Rider warscroll here.
Now,
so let's take a look at it.
Yeah, now before we do, Liam T says, interested to see what abilities the Scar Vet will have. Now I am gonna pull a Brett right here and say, we don't even know the Scar Vet's in the game. And I kinda mean that. I kinda mean that because like the model is pretty much the same. Like nobody has ever said, oh, that's a Scar. Do you mind if I run this as a Scar Vet? I'd be like, what? I am sort of curious if the Scar Vet even makes it into the game. Okay, here we go. The shooting attack is great in the sense that it has critical auto wound on a weapon that wounds on 5s. That's handy. No rend, it's fine, it's cute. Keep in mind though, again, you are looking for things to damage an enemy monster so that your Carnosaur can potentially give out fight last. So
sure.
Every shooting now becomes very interesting in this army. Same thing with melee. It's fine. It's okay. The deadly cargo ability is kind of cute. They drop. So
sorry, can you go back real quick?
Yeah.
Again, this is another example. The melee attacks are literally all companion abilities. Like the guys on top don't have a melee profile. So
yeah,
we saw the I'm not Asterism. We saw the Asterism that gives critical hits, exploding 6s, only works for companion weapons.
Yeah.
And so these guys get a lot of value from that Asterism. It's the tamer.
They're like you're not like, oh man, turn 1 6-man Pteranodons into your Varangard, you better be worried. But turn 1 6 Pteranodons into your Hogrot Slittas, turn 1 into your Spider Riders. I'm trying to think of units people use for screening. I realize most people don't use Spider Riders for screening. This unit will clear a screen. Like a light screen is in the battle of light screeners versus other light screeners. These guys are top.
They're pretty good, and they have 3 wound, they have 3 health. So can they use the push through stratagem to charge, fight, and then against 1 or 2 wound things, then move away?
Yes.
So that could be fun.
And keep in mind there's a battle tactic that's control a piece of terrain in enemy territory. So these guys can turn 1, smash in, wreck a screen, power through, get to that. I mean, a lot of rolls have to go right, but okay, cool.
Their ability, Deadly Cargo, is very similar to how it's worded in 3rd edition. They don't have to be, but it works every turn. This was a once per game ability in 3rd edition. Now they just have it. They can just drop rocks all the time.
It says in here that's the Pteranodon's poop, actually. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, it checks out. Yeah. So if they fight, they eat, they digest, and they can poop.
Wet dinosaur poop. And it shuts down run, actually.
It shuts down run, so that is a little less strong. I think it used to have movement and turn off run, although I might be conflating that with the Skink Oracle on Troglodon, his warscroll spell. But they're similar abilities. It basically is a movement debuff. So yeah, these guys, as near as I can tell, just by virtue of the fact that it's an always on, their special ability is great. There's no reason that had to be once per game. It would not have making it always on. They're only going to get a chance to do it once or twice anyway before they die. They have 3 wins each for the 5-up saves, so that they're not going to be long for this world. But man, just keeping track of have I used this ability? Just getting rid of need to keep track of that is great. Quality of life, great.
Yeah, it is. And also, like, with the Pteranodon Chief, a unit of 6 of these, and presumably he has a similar ability, the Pteranodon Chief.
Right.
Just dropping, like, 4 mortal wounds on something as you fly over, it's, like, not nothing. Mortal damage, sorry. They're
Mortal
also
damage, yeah.
they're also -1 to hit from shooting attacks.
Which is an ability that the Ripperdactyls have currently. In the current incarnation in third ed, the Pteranodons are much faster. They have 16 moves, so that this new Pteranodon War Scroll, they got a little bit slower. But again, if you choose the Sotek the Deliverer Asterism, they get that 2 inches of movement back. Going back up to 16.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit slower natively. But yeah, currently in third ed, the Ripperdactyls are sort of anti-shooting. They have -1 to be hit with shooting attacks and can only be hit on 6s when being unleashed held. And so these guys, yeah, they're kind of, again, like sort of mixing and matching these abilities. This is great. I know this feels like this unit does what it wants to do, which is like fight screens really well, get around the board, be in different places.
I like it.
And can kind of, at some point during the game, dive on something, drop a bunch of bombs, and then probably die. But
yeah,
that's fine. It's fine.
Okay. Next, we get Engine of the Gods.
Yeah.
OP'd last book. This book, generally considered garbage. Most people don't think it's very good. I think it's...
And just for reference, the Engine of the Gods is the, like, super-duper Stegodon. It's like the Stegodon with a crazy machine on its back.
Correct, yeah. Covered in skinks. So, it looks... A lot of its stat, I think, has stayed the same, if I'm correct. I don't know if its health has changed. It's got some skink javelins shooting. That's fine.
Sure, fine.
Yeah, and it's the Stegodon's, like, attacks have been... I think they previously had 2 weapons. It's been consolidated into 1, I think. And it looks like, it's hard to imagine a Stegodon would have that many attack profiles anyway. But they've got their 6, which I think is more than they used to have. But they also used to do way more damage, I believe. This thing doesn't do that much damage. So I'm very curious what the other Stegodon profiles are going to look like.
Yeah.
Because if you're relying on the Stegodon to do the damage, because I don't think you can rely on the skinks on top to do much damage, I think that more than anything, this War Scroll tells me that Stegodons are going to be not amazing, maybe themselves, just like the basic Stegodon Rider thing. But we'll see what abilities they get. Okay.
But you're not bringing this guy, like, he fights, but the fighting is almost an afterthought. Like, you're bringing him for the thing on his back, right? Which we'll get to here.
Okay, so his monstrous, his rampage ability is kind of similar. If you do some damage and he gets +1 save against that target because he's, squaring off with his giant crested horn and shield thing.
Which is cool. Like, he's only got a 4-up save, so plus to save is great.
Yeah, no ward. Okay.
Especially if you combo it with -1 rend on whoever they're fighting with, because you have a spell, or you chose the Asterism that gives your enemy units -1 rend.
Right.
Quetzal the Preserver. Yeah.
Okay. The cosmic energy ability is interesting. So you're building up these cosmic tokens. You can choose to harness the power or reserve the power. If you reserve the power, you place a cosmic power token next to this unit. Cool. If you choose to harness, roll a dice and add the number of cosmic power tokens this unit has to the roll. Then remove all of them. This unit has one of the abilities that you have unlocked here. And they're all pretty good, but keep in mind that you're only adding 1 cosmic power token to this thing when you choose not to do anything. I guess you probably choose not to do anything turn 1, because all of these are pretty pointless on turn 1. So you have to assume, and sorry, it's only your hero phase, it's not every hero phase. So you have to assume you've got a +1 to this roll on turn 2, and then it starts to get a little scary and unsure. Do you continue to hold on to these, or do you let it go?
Yeah.
it's going to be situational. Healing D3 to all friendly Seraphon units wholly within 12 is not bad. And you're doing that on a 2-up, presumably on turn 2, which you probably don't need to do.
Right.
Return 1 slain model to each unit. You know what? If you are Saurus and Kroxigor heavy, this is compelling.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're really this last one on a scary turn 4, where you've maybe acquired 3 power tokens, and now once again, Brett on a 3-up, 3 Seraphon units wholly within 12 of him get fight first.
Yeah. And so a couple things.
Yeah.
Obviously, the dice rolls are, we're keying in on that as like a point of uncertainty. Is this actually going to work? But it's wholly within 12. And as we know from this edition, wholly within abilities, especially at 12 inches, are kind of hard. Like,
Yeah.
big Kroxigor units, big Saurus units, big Agrodon units, like that's hard to accomplish.
Without like a compelling shooting attack or some other ability. Are you actually going to babysit like 20 Saurus Warriors and 6 Kroxigons with an Engine of the Gods? Are you going to pay? Are you going to pay for that babysitter? I don't think so.
I mean,
right?
He can pick himself as one of the 3.
Yeah.
And so maybe he's got 2 other units nearby, and so maybe that's fine. But like,
yeah,
wholly within 12 is a huge limiter, and the 6+ obviously it's not a guaranteed thing. So you could power this guy up the whole game, and on turn 5
roll a 1.
Roll a 1 and get it off. Is that is that overpowered? I don't know. Probably not. Like, by turn 5 it kind of doesn't matter. Probably.
Tad's mentioning, and I think he's right. Tad's mentioning if you take this, I think you're spamming the heal.
Yep, I agree.
And especially
or if you're leaning into Agrodons or Kroxigors, spamming the bring a unit back, like that could be strong too.
Oh, bring a model back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
But even that's on a 5-up, so that's
Yeah. I think you think of this guy's heal, and the more I look at the warscroll, I think he's maybe better than he is now, but yeah. Okay, that's it for warscrolls for the most part. The word from the studio, I felt like did not give me much information, but it's interesting. I like hearing what they say. I don't want to sound unappreciative. What I mean is, it didn't give me any new weird insights about how they think about the army. And then we do get a Saurus Warrior War Scroll. For Spearhead. I think their War Scroll ability looks pretty like no surprise.
That is their current War Scroll ability, so that's fine.
Everything here is pretty much how they are now. I'm kind of not expecting them to change.
Oh, sorry. This is different in a fundamental way. The current War Scroll ability doesn't have the last 2 words in this one.
You control.
Yeah. So you have to control an objective for it to give you +1 to save. That is not how it's currently worded. So it is more restrictive in that way. I mean, normally big units, Saurus Warrior units, are going to control things.
Yeah.
But if you just toe in to something, and you have a scrum over an objective in the center, and your opponent has a bunch of control on it, like and you just have a few units, you're not going to get +1 to your save.
Yeah. Okay. Brett, what do you think? How are you feeling about everything? How are you feeling about this? We do, before we hear from you, sorry, Brett, real quick, we did have a poll, and I asked what lizard super friend level describes your level of excitement. And all these lizards are exciting, but I kind of base it off of their points value or their rarity. So Skink was the least exciting, then Saurus, then Kroxigor, then Slann. And it looks like Kroxigor won, so people are mostly kind of excited. And Slann came in second, so it looks like people are mostly excited about the new Seraphon preview, with 44 votes. Brett, how are you feeling?
Like I said, I think looking at there are a few things that are notoriously absent, conspicuously absent. -1 damage. We haven't seen any of the Astral Bear stuff, so the +6-inch range on spellcasting was a very essential, in air quotes, essential part of the army.
Yeah.
In third ed. Um, and yeah, I think, like the way I played my Coalesce Vengeful Defender is a super important part of my game plan. And so we've not seen any of the relics or command traits to know if those kinds of play styles are still going to be viable. But like by and large, a lot of the stuff that we know and love with Seraphon is still here. The summoning is still here. The durability is still there.
Yeah.
In the form of being able to debuff Rend. And there's a lot of abilities that have moved around that are not sub-faction locked that you can pick and choose from to sort of build your own, Seraphon Star Host. And that, reading the designer's commentary, that's was kind of what I read into it there, was
Right.
like they wanted you to be able to do that. And that's the feeling of the army that they wanted to, you to feel when you're building a list. And that feels, that very much is how this preview feels to me. Is that you get to kind of pick and choose your buffs, your abilities from this menu, from the smorgasbord, and assemble them into a war host that fits your playstyle, which is cool. Like people, I'm excited that they want to reward, give you the option to play the army the way you want to play it. But yeah, in terms of wild conjecture and things we don't know yet, there's so much there that will, there's so much about this that will hinge on things like relics and command traits, that will hinge on other spells, other war scrolls. I really want to see the Astro Bear. I really want to see, people in chat were talking about, some of the other detachment abilities. The Thunder Lizard one in particular seems like it could be really cool. Teleporting as a game mechanic is always really strong. So if there's an entire detachment based around teleporting, like that could be amazing. So there's a lot here that is not shown, and so there's still a lot that we don't know that could affect how this plays out.
Yeah, I think more than a lot of other armies, this is a really great army where if you kind of want to play any play style, maybe not like a shooty army, but even that kind of, because skinks can presumably have a little shooting weapon, but like you can kind of do anything with this army. You can kind of do that now with it, but it looks like they're letting you do that and then in game even have more flexibility.
I'll point out one other thing before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Stephen in chat was asking whether they showed salamanders, and they did not show salamanders in this preview, but they mentioned that they exist.
Yeah.
The word Spawn of Chotek was mentioned in the article, which means they're not going away.
I hope not. That's a brand new model.
Since they both have confirmed that it exists, but not shown the preview, we are free to wildly conjecture that they are going to be absolutely amazing. And so I'm going to go, I own 2 currently. I want to own 18 more, so I'm going to go and buy 18 more on this wild conjecture that they will be amazing.
We need to... who's that crazy?
We'll see how...
Who's that crazy stock guy with the show where he's yelling at you to buy things?
That's right.
We need a Brett show where he's like, Pteranodons, you only want 60 of these.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
You want to do
Pteranodons and salamanders.
You want to do 40 mortal wounds to your opponent turn 1?
Yep. But yeah, the salamanders can do shooting too.
Yes.
If you want to play a shooting army, skinks with blowpipes and salamanders is where it's at. Pteranodon Overlord's got nothing on Spawn of Chotek, baby.
Tomorrow, Slaves to D. So Saray will be back for sure. And we will be talking about Slaves to Darkness. I think a lot of people are really excited about this one.
Yeah, it's a popular faction for good reason.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, we're going to say bye to Brett. Brett will see you later. Bye. And everybody else, just so you remember, we do have our game tonight. Again, if you're a Mandro, please get into Discord. In about 4 or 5 minutes here, I'm going to close that poll. So get in there and give your final vote to what I'm playing tonight against Meg, because I need to make the thumbnail and put that stream up. So I can't do that until I know what I'm playing. I think that's it. We did it. We will see you back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Otherwise, tonight at 6 p.m. for our game. Bye, everybody.